Welcome to the Strategy Sync YouTube channel. Please subscribe and like to hear new book summaries. Okay, let's just dive right in. Today, we are attempting to unpack a book that, honestly, it's more than a guide. It was a real cultural pivot point.
It really was.
We're talking about Timothy Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek, Escape 9 to 5, Live Anywhere, and Join the New Rich. But we aren't just going to read the back cover here. We have to tackle the sheer, almost unbelievable audacity of that claim.
Exactly. And the book's core argument is a direct challenge to what Ferriss calls the deferred-life plan. You know, the DLP.
The DLP, right.
And that's that deeply ingrained social contract where you're just expected to sacrifice your best years, your most vibrant years, your health, your time.
All for some distant promise.
A promise of retirement that you hope will eventually make up for it all.
And the reason this new book hit so hard is because of his own story. I mean, the author's personal transformation is just staggering.
It really is. He was running his company, Brain Quicken.
Working, what, 14-hour days?
14-hour days, 7 days a week, making about $40,000 a year and being completely, utterly miserable.
And then he just flips the script. Totally flips it. He goes to working 4-hour weeks.
While generating upwards of $40,000 a month.
Now, if that sounds like, some kind of hyperbolic snake oil, you're in the right place. Because our mission today is to cut right through that hype and extract the essential, actionable knowledge.
Our mission is precisely that. We're here to extract the principles you need to actually separate your income from your time. We're focusing on the mechanics, the specific tools, the mindset shifts. This isn't just abstract theory.
No, it's a manual.
It's a technical manual wrapped inside a philosophy. And we're going to deconstruct his core framework for what he calls luxury lifestyle design, which he organizes pretty conveniently into the acronym DEAL.
Definition, elimination, automation, and liberation.
That's it.
Okay, so let's jump right into the D definition. Because before you can escape the 9 to 5, you first have to realize that the 9 to 5 is basically an arbitrary construct.
Right. He claims the real world and its common sense rules are actually just this fragile collection of socially reinforced illusions.
That sounds pretty radical. What does that really mean in practice?
It means that, 99% of people just accept the rules that are laid out for them. Rules that were often designed by people who are long dead or just totally irrelevant to our world today.
So the goal of the new rich, as he calls them, isn't to just save money for 50 years.
Not at all. The goal is fun and profit, but now it's not about finding your dream job. It's about freeing up your time and automating your income. Because the perfect job for the purpose of this lifestyle design is often the one that demands the minimum effective load on your time.
And to illustrate how negotiable reality is, he starts with that. That amazing story about his Chinese kickboxing victory. I was so skeptical when I first read that.
It sounds impossible.
Right. He had only 4 weeks to prepare for a national championship. And he won. How on earth did he pull that off?
Well, he realized right away that physical superiority was just off the table. He couldn't get there in 4 weeks. So instead, he focused on exploiting the rules of the game.
Okay, so how? What was the first trick?
The first trick was a massive manipulation of his weight class. He used techniques that are actually pretty common to powerlifters and wrestlers. Extreme dehydration and then rehydration.
And that let him do what exactly?
He dropped 28 pounds in 18 hours. He weighed in at 165, and then he just ballooned right back up to 193 before the actual fight.
So he was fighting opponents.
2 or 3 weight classes below him by the time the bell actually rang. A huge physical advantage.
Wait, okay, that's a physical edge, but that doesn't explain the strategic part, the part about challenging the rules of the sport itself.
That was the second trick. He found this technicality in the rule book. If an opponent fell off the elevated platform, the lei tai, 3 times in a single round, they lost by default.
No way.
Yes. So he made that his entire strategy. He focused all of his offense not on knocking them out, but just on shoving them off the ring.
That must have looked ridiculous.
It was unorthodox, probably really ugly to watch, and it definitely frustrated the judges. But it was 100% within the rules. It was a win based on seeing and seizing an option that nobody else saw.
It's the ultimate example of thinking outside the box, or I guess exploiting the gaps in the box. It kind of reminds me of the Fosbury flop in high jumping.
Exactly the same principle. Dick Fosbury starts twisting his body over the bar backward in 1968, and all the established athletes and coaches thought he was, insane or being disrespectful.
And then what happened?
By 1980, nearly every single Olympic finalist was using his counterintuitive rule-bending method. It just proves that when you test the basic assumptions, you evolve the game.
And testing those assumptions brings us right to his definition of the new rich, the NR, versus everyone still stuck in the deferred life plan, the DLP.
They're two completely different operating systems for life. The DLP person's goal is to, say, work for themselves.
Whereas the NR person,
Their goal is to arrange to have others work for them. They want to own the metaphorical trains, not drive them.
I think the most important difference, the one that really defines the whole book, is their relationship with time.
Absolutely. The DLP person just sees work as this constant presence. The NR priority is to prevent work for work's sake.
That's a great phrase.
They apply what he calls the minimum effective load, doing only what is absolutely necessary and nothing more. And crucially, they don't just aim to make a ton of money vaguely.
Right, there has to be a reason.
They make money with specific reasons and defined dreams attached, complete with timelines.
And that leads to this huge philosophical split on, on stuff.
Yeah.
On consumption.
It does. The DLP person is often pursuing having more, which just leads to clutter and maintenance and debt.
Which just ties you right back to the 9-to-5 you're trying to escape.
Exactly. The NR, on the other hand, pursues more quality and less clutter. They recognize that just accumulating material wants is often just a justification for spending your time on things that don't actually make you happy.
They value mobility and freedom over just piling up assets.
That's the pivot. Mobility over assets. And that's the core of the big lifestyle change he proposes. The mini retirement.
If freedom and experiences are the goal, why wait 40 years to cash in? Why not sample that deferred life reward right now?
And he uses one of the most famous analogies in business books to illustrate this. The Mexican fisherman versus the American investment banker.
Oh, I love this one.
The banker just grinds for 15, 20 years, putting up with 80-hour weeks to make millions, also he can finally retire to some coastal village.
And once he's there, his big dream is what? To sleep late?
Sleep late, fish a little, play with his kids, and then stroll to the village square for some wine and guitar with his friends.
And the punchline, of course, is that the fisherman is already doing all of that.
He's already there. He prioritized quality of life and time freedom decades ago, while the banker saw financial security as the prerequisite for starting to live.
The book makes a really persuasive case that your dream to, say, sail the Caribbean or take a motorcycle trip across Asia often costs less than what you're already paying in domestic expenses, your rent, car payments, utilities.
It's the illusion of expense. You think these grand adventures are only for the ultra-wealthy, but Ferriss points out that if you earn in dollars and live on pesos, which is part of the automation strategy we'll get to, that lifestyle is surprisingly affordable.
But you can only seize that freedom if you actually know what you want to do with it.
Exactly. The book states pretty bluntly that the opposite of happiness isn't sadness, it's indifference, it's boredom.
So excitement is the practical synonym for happiness.
Yeah.
And it's the cure-all for that existential dread.
It is. And if you don't define that excitement, that what I want, you fall right into the trap of what he calls the financial void.
What's the financial void?
That's the danger of just working indefinitely. Your target dollar figure just keeps going up and up and up because you're using work and making money as this convenient shield against the scary uncertainty of free time.
If you don't know what you'd do if you aren't working, you just keep working.
You just keep working.
So the first real actionable step in the DEAL framework is to make that abstract desire for wealth tangible. You do that with dreamlining.
Right. You have to calculate your target monthly income, or TMI, the income needed to fund your specific, exciting 6-month and 12-month dreams. The focus is entirely on monthly cash flow, not some huge 7-figure net worth.
That's a really crucial distinction, isn't it? Because making $10 million in one lump sum is this massive, painful effort.
Whereas generating, say, $10,000 in passive monthly income requires a repeatable, scalable system, which is far more achievable for the average person. He uses the striking example of a $250,000 item, the Lamborghini Gallardo Spider.
And he just reframes that huge capital expense into a manageable, what was it, about $2,900 a month payment plan?
Exactly. That alignment reframing the dream into a monthly cash flow need, that's the core engine of the whole system.
So let's break down that formula he provides, because this is where it gets really practical. It's monthly goals plus one-time goals divided by the number of months, all times 1.3.
Right. And the specificity there is key. Focusing on the monthly goals like rent for a new apartment or tuition for a course, it forces you to budget with precision.
And that 1.3 factor, that 30% buffer, Why is that so important?
That's your safety net. It represents your current minimum monthly expenses, plus a cushion for savings, investment, or just, life happening. It shifts the goal from some vague, overwhelming number to a highly specific, justified TMI.
You're not just aiming to be rich anymore.
No. You're aiming to generate, let's say, $8,000 a month to fund specific travel, housing, and learning dreams. That specificity builds real momentum.
It turns the whole thing into a quantifiable engineering problem. You're not chasing happiness, you're chasing the TMI that funds the dreams you've defined.
And once that number is set, the very next question is, okay, how do we actually free up the hours we need to hit that number? Which moves us perfectly into the second phase, elimination.
Elimination. This is where we just throw traditional time management out the window. We have to forget the idea that being busy means you're being productive.
The book is almost brutal on this point. Being busy, he says, is often just a comfortable, convenient way to avoid the few critically important but usually uncomfortable actions that actually move the needle.
Our whole society rewards effort and just showing up, not results.
Exactly. So this step is about breaking that programming. But before you can radically eliminate your activities, he insists you have to deal with the psychological barrier first. And he does that with a tool called fear setting.
Fear setting. So it's the opposite of positive thinking.
Right. You actively define your nightmare. When Ferriss himself was stuck, earning $70,000 a month but trapped in that 14-hour workday, his biggest fear was that if he tried to change anything, his business would just collapse and he'd be destitute.
And the exercise he outlines is surprisingly detailed.
It is. You take a piece of paper, make 3 columns. Column 1 is, what are the absolute worst things that could happen if I do this? And you list them out in detail.
And column 2?
Column 2 is, how likely are these things to happen? And if they do, how could I repair the damage?
That repair column feels like the key. He realized that if his business completely failed, he could just, go back to bartending?
Bartending, sell his furniture, move in with a friend for a few months. None of those outcomes were fatal. They were just inconveniences. He calls them panty pinches on the journey of life.
And the third column is about the cost of doing nothing.
Yeah, what are the costs of inaction? And this is where most people have their big epiphany. They realize that the emotional cost of staying in that unhappy but certain situation is far greater than the risk of actually trying and failing.
Most people choose unhappiness over uncertainty.
Because the known bad feels safer than the unknown good.
That's a really profound takeaway. By defining and accepting the worst-case scenario, you realize how rarely it's actually a catastrophe. It removes the paralysis of the unknown.
And that mindset feeds directly into the ultimate rule of elimination, which is, what we fear doing most is usually what we most need to do.
That uncomfortable phone call, that bold proposal, firing that problem client.
Those are the high-leverage activities. And with that psychological barrier lowered, we can move to the cornerstone of efficiency, the 80-20 principle, Pareto's law.
80% of the results come from 20% of the effort.
Exactly. 80% of consequences flow from 20% of causes. And the goal of the NR is to relentlessly identify and focus only on that vital 20%.
And the way he applied this to his own business was, well, it was revolutionary.
Yeah.
It's a terrifying idea for most managers.
It is. When he was working those 80-plus hour weeks, he asked himself 2 questions. First, which 20% of my customers are generating 80% of my revenue?
And then the flip side.
Right. Which 20% of customers are causing 80% of my problems and my unhappiness?
And the answer was a complete shock.
The revelation was that the few high-maintenance customers who consumed 80% of his daily anger and time, they contributed almost nothing to the actual profit. They were low-profit, high-demand vampires.
So what did he do?
The immediate solution, which horrified his employees, was to just fire them. He eliminated those time sinks instantly.
Wait, he just fired customers. That takes some serious guts. What does the book say about handling that initial fear that your cash flow is just going to plummet?
That's why the 80-20 principle is so powerful. By focusing on the profit and the time costs, he realized they were already costing him more than they brought in. By firing them, his monthly income almost doubled.
Doubled.
It jumped from $30,000 to $60,000 in just 4 weeks because he freed up all that time to focus on his profitable customers. His weekly hours dropped from over 80 to about 15.
Wow. The core message there is just brutal. Being busy is a form of laziness.
Lazy thinking and indiscriminate action.
So once we use 80-20 to find the critical few tasks, we need the second major time multiplier, Parkinson's law.
which states that a task will swell to fill the time you allot for it. If you give yourself a week to write a report, it'll take a week. If you give yourself 2 hours,
It'll take 2 hours.
So the brilliant solution is to combine them. Use 80-20 to limit your tasks to only the important ones, and then use Parkinson's law to shorten the work time you give yourself for those tasks.
And the number one target for this combination is email.
Email is the greatest productivity killer in the modern world. It just turns you into a reactive creature.
The rule he gives is so simple but so hard to actually do. Turn off all the alerts, all the dings and pop-ups, and only check email twice a day, say noon and 4 p.m.
But the absolute critical rule is never, ever check email first thing in the morning.
Why is that so important?
Because if you check your email first, you immediately start reacting to everyone else's agenda. The crisis of the day, the random meeting request. You spend your peak mental hours doing low-leverage reactive work.
So the mandate is to complete your single most important task before 11 a.m. no matter what.
That's what forces you to prioritize. And this whole efficiency mindset applies to all repetitive tasks through batching.
Grouping similar non-critical tasks together.
Exactly, like checking snail mail, paying bills, returning non-urgent phone calls. It reduces the time you spend per instance.
Give me an example.
Think about it. Checking your physical mail 5 times a week might take you, 30 minutes each time? That's 2.5 hours. But checking it just once a week might take 60 minutes total. You just saved 90 minutes of wasted transition time.
And he says you can actually calculate the value of batching.
Yeah, by testing the cost of the delay versus the time savings. Let's say you only check your email once a week. Maybe you lose $80 in a sale because you were slow to respond.
Yeah.
But if that delay saves you 10 hours of focused work time and you value your focus time at $200 an hour, you have a massive net gain. You have to optimize for focus, not for a zero-loss environment.
Which leads right into the low-information diet.
If you want massive action and output, you have to dramatically decrease your input. Most information we consume, the news, online forums, celebrity gossip, it's negative, it's irrelevant, and it's unactionable. It's just an addiction.
And his antidote is pretty radical, a 1-week media fast.
Cold turkey. No newspapers, no TV news, no non-critical websites. Replace the newspaper at breakfast with actually speaking to your family or completing a critical task. The goal is to prove to yourself how little you actually missed.
And there's a fantastic shortcut for when you do genuinely need to learn something new.
The forgotten skill of just talking to people. If you need to enter a new field, read one How I Did It book to get the lingo down. Then formulate 10 specific intelligent questions and just email or call 10 top experts in that niche.
He claims he got an 80% response rate doing that for his own big research.
Because you're not asking them to do your homework for you. You're showing them you've done your homework and are asking highly targeted questions that appeal to their expertise. It's so much more efficient than reading 50 books.
Finally, elimination requires conditioning yourself to discomfort.
Since uncomfortable actions are usually the most important ones, you have to build up that muscle for assertiveness. And he offers these small, actionable comfort challenges to overcome social fear.
I like the one he calls learn to propose.
Right. Stop asking for vague opinions like, where should we eat tonight? Instead, you just offer a solution. Let's eat at the new Thai place downtown. It builds decisiveness.
And the other crucial habit is just learning to say no, the terrible twos rule.
Say no to all requests that won't get you immediately fired or divorced. You don't need a complicated excuse. A simple, polite, I really can't, sorry, I've got too much on my plate right now, is enough.
But I can imagine the pushback, especially from bosses or demanding clients. How do you assert those boundaries without looking uncooperative?
That's where the criticism sandwich comes in. It's a key technique for training the people around you.
How does it work?
First, you praise the person for something genuine. Second, you deliver the criticism or the request for change assertively and clearly. And third, you close with topic-shifting praise to exit on a positive note. It trains others that the cost of bothering you is higher than the benefit.
So once we've done the psychological work of fear setting and the practical work of radical elimination, we have the time, but we don't necessarily have automated income.
And that brings us to the most complex part of the DEAL framework, automation.
Management-free money.
Automation is the creation of what he calls a muse, an automated vehicle for generating cash without consuming your time. And for that to work, it has to be scalable, profitable, and super low maintenance. He has very strict criteria.
The first filter is price point. The product should cost the customer between $50 and $200. Why so specific?
It's a psychological and logistical firewall. Products under $50 tend to attract high-volume, low-margin, high-complaint customers. It's a headache.
Over 200.
Over 200 usually requires a lot of human contact, phone calls, consultations, negotiation. That $50 to $200 sweet spot attracts lower maintenance customers who are serious enough to pay a premium but don't require heavy handholding.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The second filter is aiming for an 8 to 10 times markup. If the customer pays $100, your cost should be no more than $10 to $12.50. That's a huge margin.
It's your safety buffer. His own company survived several major supply chain mishaps, dishonest suppliers, and late deliveries precisely because the profit margin was so huge. Things will inevitably go wrong, and if your margin is tight, one small hiccup can just wipe you out.
And the third filter is speed. The product shouldn't take more than 3 to 4 weeks to manufacture.
Right. This keeps your inventory costs low and lets the business pivot quickly if the market shifts. You don't want to be sitting on a year's worth of stock that suddenly becomes obsolete.
So what are the options for developing a product like this?
Well, the easiest but least profitable is to just resell. You buy wholesale and mark it up. It's quick to launch, but price competition will kill you pretty fast.
And is this license?
Borrowing an idea, like how Red Bull borrowed the concept of a Thai tonic. But that requires a lot of complex deal-making, which is management-intensive and defeats the whole purpose of automation.
So the recommended option is to create.
And the ultimate automated product is the info product. A specialized DVD, a niche ebook, a curated online course.
Why are info products so perfect for the new rich?
Zero inventory, instant delivery, and nearly 100% profit margin once the content is actually created. You don't have to deal with physical manufacturing, supply chains, or warehousing at all.
But if you do go the physical product route, he recommends private labeling.
Yes. Sticking your custom label on a generic stock product, it minimizes your development time. You're not reinventing the wheel. You're just branding an existing proven product.
But before you spend a single dollar on manufacturing any of this, you have to perform a proof of concept. Micro-testing.
This is absolutely vital. You validate the demand before you spend thousands on manufacturing. The goal is to spend less than $500 to test if your idea is viable. He uses the example of Ed Bird launching the supplement NO2. He didn't just start making the $80 pill.
Right? He sold a low-priced book about the concept first.
Exactly. The stream of book orders confirmed two things. A, the demand was there, and B, the customers were willing to pay for premium knowledge in that niche.
The technical strategy for microtesting this is just brilliant. You use pay-per-click ads like Google AdWords to drive cheap traffic to a simple one-page site.
And here's the genius part. You use a form builder to create a fake backorder page. When a visitor clicks purchase, they're redirected to a final page that registers the order but just says, we are temporarily out of stock.
So even though no money changes hands, if they click all the way through, it counts as a genuine commitment to buy at that price. That's the proof of concept.
And the anecdote about Sherwood testing his $100 shirts illustrates this perfectly. At first, he spent $150 on ads and only got 3 hypothetical sales. Not viable.
So he adjusted the offer.
He adjusted the offer, not the product, by adding an extreme guarantee, the lose-win guarantee, and he retested. He then got 7 sales, which was enough to prove viability and move forward with production.
And that adjustment, that risk reversal, is the next critical automation tool. The standard 30-day money-back guarantee is basically dead.
Because it still costs the customer time and postage to even use it. You have to remove all of the perceived risk.
The author's company, BodyQ UACK, offered a 110% guarantee, a full refund, plus 10% more. That just sounds insane.
It does, but sales increased by over 300% within 4 weeks. And here's the crucial data point. Returns stayed below 3%, far below the industry average of 12 to 15%.
Why do the returns stay so low when the guarantee is so generous?
Because if your product actually delivers, most people are honest. The increased sales volume dramatically outweighs the slightly increased cost of returns. Risk reversal isn't a cost, it's an accelerator.
So we have the validated product. Now we have to automate the actual running of the business so we don't become the bottleneck.
And this is where outsourcing and geo-arbitrage come in. Joining the new rich requires having others work for you.
Geo-arbitrage, earning in dollars, living on pesos, and compensating in rupees.
Exactly. You're exploiting global labor cost differentials. You can enjoy a $4 US breakfast in Buenos Aires while paying a highly competent virtual assistant, or VA, $4 to $10 US per hour for high-level work.
What's the golden rule for delegating, though? Because if you just hand off your chaos to a cheap VA, you haven't really gained anything.
The task must be both time-consuming and well-defined. If you're just running around with your head cut off, assigning complex, poorly defined tasks just causes frustration and errors.
What kind of work can they actually handle?
Incredibly complex work. Web research, scheduling, document creation, financial analysis, even compiling complex legal research. But only if the deliverables are broken down into small, digestible milestones, preferably under 72 hours.
The book shares that interesting anecdote about outsourcing his own neuroses.
I love that one. He was obsessively worrying about a business deal, which was just eating his productivity. So he delegated the worrying itself. He tasked his VA to manage the deal and explicitly told her, "I will worry about this every day. Do not worry."
Just knowing someone else was professionally managing the stress allowed him to focus.
The ability to delegate emotional burdens is maybe the ultimate outsourcing trick. And this all feeds into the final stage of automation. Management by absence, MBA.
The ghost in the machine?
Right, this is the fully automated architecture. The author describes his own company with hundreds of people involved in fulfillment, yet he is one person and he's nowhere in the fulfillment diagram, he's just an observer.
So what does a manager by absence actually check?
Detailed reports, but only weekly or monthly. They focus on key performance indicators, KPIs, that signal a system failure, not daily minutia.
Like what?
Like returns exceeding 5%, or customer acquisition costs spiking by more than 2 standard deviations. These are the tripwires that trigger intervention. He only checks his bank accounts online twice a month. The rest of the time, the machine just runs itself.
But this kind of scalability demands absolute customer filtering. You have to actively reject the low-profit, high-maintenance customers.
Absolutely. The goal is to make your business an exclusive club that you treat really well once they're inside. And he suggests policy changes to filter out the headache customers, who often make up 10 to 15% of your base but create 40% of your expenses.
And what are some of those filtering policies?
Eliminating phone orders completely is a big one. Also, raising wholesale minimums, referring all resellers to an automated fax form, and refusing complex payment methods like checks. You force the customer to use your most efficient system, or you just don't take their money.
That seems so counterintuitive to maximizing sales.
But it makes perfect sense if your goal is maximizing profit and time. So your income is automated, your time is freed up. We've defined our TMI, eliminated the junk work, and automated the income stream. Now we move to the final phase. Liberation.
A mobile manifesto.
Liberation is where the mini-retirement becomes a recurring lifestyle event, not just a one-time sabbatical. And the key factor here is time. The book emphasizes it takes 2 to 3 months just to truly unplug from the obsolete routines and the constant motion of the DLP.
That's a really crucial insight. It's not cumulative. A dozen 2-week vacations can't replace one good, introspective 3-month trip. You need that time to break deep psychological habits.
And for those who are still working a traditional job, the immediate goal of liberation is to move from presence-based work being chained to an office to performance-based freedom.
This is where you might focus on liberation before full automation, using remote work as the bridge.
Exactly. The Dave Camarillo case study at HP is a perfect example. He spent 30 days in China meeting family, but he was conducting complex technical support via a tri-band phone and call forwarding. His company had no idea he was even gone.
That case proves that if your job is performance-based and you use technology effectively, your physical location is just irrelevant.
But going remote requires very careful negotiation. He lays it out in a precise 4-step sequence.
Let's break those down, because this is where the skeptical listener is probably thinking, my boss would just say no.
Step 1. You increase your performance dramatically using the 80-20 principle. You have to make your boss look exceptional in front of their boss. You become indispensable before you ask for freedom.
Step 2. Prepare quantifiable business benefits. You can't just say, I'll be happier at home.
No, you have to state that you will deliver more designs or achieve higher billable hours because you'll have 0 distractions and no commute time.
Step 3. Propose a revocable trial period. Start small. 1 day a week for 2 weeks. It sounds non-committal. If it fails, you just come back to the office. No harm done.
And step 4, the most important one. Address your boss's fears preemptively. When they hesitate, you ask, what's your main concern? If they worry that everyone will want this, your response is, I understand that fear, but not everyone has my performance record, and this is a revocable trial based strictly on my proven ability to over-deliver.
It's not asking for permission. It's presenting a fully vetted, low-risk business proposal.
And this unrestricted mobility is what truly defines the new rich. The ability to live and work anywhere, exploiting geo-arbitrage not just for VAs, but for your own housing, food, and quality of life. Being bound to one place is going to become the defining, expensive feature of the middle class.
But this comes down to conquering those fear factors, the excuses that keep us stationary. People worry about health insurance, retirement plans.
And the truth is often so much simpler than the fear allows. The book points out that identical medical coverage, often within the same provider network, can be found for $300 to $500 a month on a flexible international plan.
And transferring a 401k.
It's a simple 30-minute phone call. These huge abstract fears just melt away when you actually look at them closely.
Another massive excuse is just baggage and clutter.
And travelers unanimously agree. Trip enjoyment is inversely proportionate to the amount of crap you bring with you. You end up wasting time managing your things instead of experiencing the world.
So what's the strategy for that radical minimalism?
The settling fund. Instead of packing for every possible contingency, you pack the absolute minimum. A laptop is often discouraged because it just encourages the bad habit of killing time. And you allocate a small fund, maybe $100 to $300, to just buy whatever you need after you arrive.
It transforms logistics into a localized adventure.
Exactly. You're forced to engage with the local culture to buy a charger or a coat.
But this radical freedom, it presents a new, unexpected psychological challenge. The void.
Right. After the initial euphoria of liberation fades, you wake up without an alarm and you're bored, you're feeling socially isolated. This is the psychological shock of downshifting.
High performers often lose their tribal unit when they leave the 9 to 5.
The office provides routine, gossip, a social structure that just disappears. If you define yourself by your career, liberation can feel like a total loss of identity.
So how do you cure the void?
Yeah.
How do you replace that time-famine perception with time abundance?
The cure is continuous growth, contribution, and excitement. You have to replace the pursuit of having with the pursuit of being and doing. The book encourages you to stop wasting time on poorly defined questions like, what is the meaning of life? If you can't define the terms or act on the answer, just forget it. Focus on what you can control.
And what's the single best high-impact learning activity that he recommends?
Language learning, bar none. He asserts it's the best activity to hone clear thinking. It makes you aware of your own language patterns and thoughts. It gives you a second lens to question the world with. And once the time constraints of the 9 to 5 are gone, conversational fluency can be achieved in any language in 6 months or less.
This has been just a profound deep dive into this blueprint for becoming new rich, synthesized into that DEAL framework.
Yeah.
We started with definition, forcing you to calculate that precise target monthly income to fund specific, exciting dreams.
We then moved to elimination, using fear setting to overcome the psychological barrier to change, and then the radical application of the 80-20 principle and Parkinson's law to just slash meaningless activity.
We covered automation, showing you how to create muses, those automated high-margin income streams, through smart micro-testing, risk reversal guarantees, and leveraging strategic geo-arbitrage with virtual assistants.
And finally, liberation, which allows you to transition to performance-based work through careful negotiation and enjoy recurring mini-retirements, prioritizing time and mobility over traditional fixed assets. This book isn't just about making money.
No, it's a tactical manual for living a life defined by freedom now, requiring you to prioritize doing interesting things over simply owning enviable things. The tools are specific, the steps are actionable, but it's that underlying psychological commitment to challenging the status quo that makes it all possible.
As we wrap up, we have to reflect on the final lesson that the new rich often learn too late. Many who successfully apply the DEA framework fall into the common mistake of viewing one product, job, or project as the end-all and be-all of your existence.
Life is just too long to be a pessimist.
And any rut you find yourself in, even a rut of freedom, is one you can get yourself out of. The biggest mistake, once you have that time and income stream, is ignoring the social rewards of life. The book reminds us that happiness shared in the form of friendships and love is happiness multiplied. The true goal, once you've automated your income and liberated your time, is to create meaning if you can't find it.
So what new meaning will you start creating with the time you've just won back? Think about that until the next time you join us for the deep dive.